Week 9 of the NFL has finished, and as predicted going into week 9, I said a lot of the road teams were going to win this week. I ended up being right that 10 out of the 14 games the road team would won. Now, I missed a couple of those games in there. In the money line, we did end up going 10 and 4, which does put us at 94 and 41 on the year. The games I missed were games that pretty much everybody missed. Of course, Carolina upsetting Green Bay, Minnesota upsetting Detroit, which I said, be careful. Everybody loved the Lions 8.5. I said if I was going to bet that game, I was going to take the Minnesota side of it. I had Kansas City over Buffalo, and then I did have Indy over Pittsburgh as well. Steelers did a good job of bouncing back. Now, in best bets, I can make the argument I really should have gone 5 for 5. I had Baltimore easy -7.5 Thursday night. Hit the hit the Broncos +1.5 against the Houston Texans. No CJ Stroud or not that hit. Niners destroyed the Giants easy -2.5. Rams destroyed the Saints easy -14.5. My one miss in best bets, which made us 4 for 5, puts us at 29 out of 45, which is still really good for the year on best bets. But the Chargers won by 7. The spread was 9.5 against Tennessee, who Cam Ward had probably his best game of the year and didn't even do much. Justin Herbert had a pick six very early in that game, which basically cost us the spread. Yes, very angry about it because that was our best chance to go 5 for 5 easily on the year. I could have taken Minnesota with the points, as I said. I could have taken Atlanta with the points. I said, be careful with that Patriots -5.5. A lot of people liked it. I said Atlanta was going to bounce back. I said Atlanta was going to play well. I said be careful with Carolina, even though it was on the road. I didn't know if Green Bay, if that was going to be a look-ahead spot to Philly or not. Apparently, it was. So, you know, um, just some good games all the way around this weekend. Thursday night was obviously not one of them. The Dolphins, they've already fired Chris Greer. Jalen Phillips is now a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, which we'll see if any of these good teams in the NFL make a trade deadline move today. But Lamar Jackson came back. He did not run a lot. He only ran the ball 2 times, and that's because he didn't need to. And if you look at it now, with the Ravens going from a Sunday to Thursday game, they gave Lamar Jackson 4 extra days of rest after already defeating the Chicago Bears. And now he gets 10 days off before they take on the Minnesota Vikings in week 10. Brian Flores, a very blitz heavy defense. So maybe Lamar can get more healthy. Maybe they'll run around a little bit more. Um, Listen, I think there is a reason why, even though the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Indianapolis Colts, the Baltimore Ravens are now favored to win the AFC North. And they may have started 1-5. Their defense may have been terrible to start the year, but their defense has gotten better. Kyle Hamilton, now they can move him all the way around the field. That's been a big change for Zach Gore's defense. And the Dolphins may have beaten the Falcons like a drum 2 weeks ago, but we know the Dolphins are not very good. There's reports out there Minka Fitzpatrick could be traded at the time I'm recording this at 8 a.m. on Tuesday morning before my day job. So, um, the Dolphins are a mess. Let's start there. So New England only beat Atlanta 24-23. They were up 21-7 right before going into half, and Drake London, who had a crazy game, 9 catches, 170 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, got the scoreboard report after, made it 21-14. And at that point, it was a real dogfight. Drake London had an incredible catch in the back of the end zone when it was 24-17 New England. Atlanta was going for the tie. The field goal, the extra point, was missed by Atlanta. That cost them a potential overtime. New England, though, is 7-2. And out of every team in the AFC, they are favored to get the number one seed because of their schedule moving forward. Now, my partner over at Championship Rings, Josh Unger, believes that Drake May is the MVP of the regular season. I understand where he's coming from. He has the completion percentage right. The Patriots just sort of came out of nowhere. I just don't think anybody believes that the New England Patriots are serious Super Bowl contenders. When you have the Chiefs and the Bills, the Patriots are a nice story, and I know they beat Buffalo in Buffalo. But if they were to match up in the playoffs, I don't think New England can go in there and beat Buffalo. Una, maybe Buffalo has found their stride. It was a good win for the Patriots. Disappointing win for Atlanta, who everybody expected to compete in that NFC South division with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And all of a sudden, they're in third place behind the Carolina Panthers, who they've already lost to this season. Speaking of a wild game, there is trouble brewing in Cincinnati again because the Bengals defense, who I said Al Golden, the defensive coordinator who was at Notre Dame, coached the national championship game last year against Ohio State. I said there's no possible way the Bengals defense is going to be worse than a year ago. And yes, I know Trey Anderson is out, and he may have played his last game in a Bengals uniform after what we saw over the last two games. But Cincinnati became the first team since the 1960 New York Giants to score 80 points in two games. And yes, it took an onside kick, and it was unbelievable. And Joe Flacco is playing as well as prime Joe Burrow, which is unbelievable from what we saw to Jake Browning in that offense, what Flacco's been doing with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Yoshi Bosch, getting them the football. But that Bengals defense got no pass rush on Caleb Williams all day long, who had a career day in my eyes when you look at the way he played. The backup running back replacing DeAndre Swift had a career day, was just going up and down the field on these guys. Now, Dennis Allen, who's been a very good defensive coordinator for his career for the Bears, has not been very good this year. He was good with the Saints on defense, not good as a head coach. But that's a game that the Bears typically always lose, and they found a way to win. And this NFC North now, all of a sudden, Lions lose, Packers lose, Bears and Vikings win. It gets really tight. And we looked at Cincinnati after they beat Pittsburgh week 7 on that Thursday night, and we said, okay, their next two games, you've got the Jets at home, you've got the Bears at home, and then you've got to go to Pittsburgh. We said if you go 2-1 in that stretch, if you beat the Bears and the Jets, all of a sudden you're right back in it. And they lost both. Okay, Daniel Jones had a bad game. We know the Colts cannot drop back with Daniel Jones 50 times and win the game. That's going to be the formula to beat them. It was the first legitimate loss of the year because you can make the argument they should have beat the Rams if Adonte Mitchell did not toss that ball out of the back of the end zone. Steelers defense had an incredible day, forcing 5 turnovers, including 3 interceptions and 2 fumbles, and yet they still only won the game 27-17. Now, this game was at the end of the fourth quarter. Daniel Jones did get a garbage time touchdown. Aaron Rodgers, though, is doing what the Steelers have done all year, which is, again, throw the ball short. Even though they have DK Metcalf, he only had 2 catches for 6 yards. They have no down the field passing game at all. What's leaning on our run game, what's leaning on our defense, and Aaron Rodgers be a game manager. And that will get us to 9-8. Even though the Jaguars won, Colts lost, nothing changes my mind on the Colts. Now, do I think now they're maybe the fourth best team in the AFC instead of the third best team? Maybe is New England the third best team or Baltimore? That's possible. But it hasn't changed my mind that I think the Colts are going to run away with this AFC South division. I already talked about the Chargers. Listen, they won. They didn't cover against Tennessee. The big story here is Joe Alt is out for the season. So now they've watched Rashawn Slater for the year. They've watched Joe Alt for the year. Amari Hampton is down. So this Charger offense is not the offense that we thought it was going into the year. Just like the San Francisco 49ers, just like the Washington Commanders, who we'll get to, they're all beat to hell. And the one bad thing about this for the Chargers is the Denver Broncos, after knocking CJ Stroud out of the game, the Texans kicked 5 field goals, led by Davis Mills. It wasn't enough because Denver and Bo Nix did not play well. And guys, let's be honest, outside of the Cowboy game last week, Bo Nix has not played well really all season. Besides, again, the Cowboy game, the fourth quarter against the Giants, and the fourth quarter against the Eagles. Maybe it's something in the air about NFC East teams that Bo Nix has faced this year. But the Broncos win that game on the skin of their teeth. They're 7-2, and I don't feel like they're as good as the Chiefs or a healthy Charger team. Now we'll see. Again, they did play week 3. Chargers won on that walk-off field goal. The Chargers are a different team now, though. Without both their offensive tackles, Mekhi Becton is also hurt. I'm just saying, outside of the Cowboy game, which at this point after last night, which I did call, by the way, I picked Arizona in the upset. I thought Kyler Murray was going to play. It ended up being Jacoby Brissett. But how good are the Cowboys? And the Panthers, listen, we said at the end of last year, Bryce Young looked like a real quarterback. We didn't know if he could transition that over to the new year. We didn't know how good the Panthers were going to be. But all of a sudden, they're 5-4, and they got their biggest win in years. They took down a Packer team who was looking forward to the Eagles game next Monday night. The big blow here for Green Bay is not that Jordan Love decided to make a Brett Favre-esque throw in the back of the end zone, which I have no idea what he was doing. Obviously, Tucker Kraft going down, it was a huge part of that offense. Josh Jacobs is not having the biggest year. And when you force Jordan Love back to throw, he's not the same quarterback. And the Panthers came in there with energy. They came in there motivated. They came in there to prove a point. And all of a sudden, Dave Canales is starting to build something in Carolina. And they went through so many head coaches with the new ownership, David Tepper, whether it was Steve Wilkes, Frank Reich. Um, they were just cycling through coaches. Phil Snow, I think at one point was a coach. Can you tell you how many coaches they have? I think they found the right guy in Dave Canales. Now for Green Bay, I picked them to be the number one seed even before the Micah Parsons trade. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl even before the Micah Parsons acquisition, and Mike has been absolutely unbelievable this year. But Jordan Love has not taken that leap that I thought he would. Matthew Golden as a first round pick has been an absolute bust. And they're in a very tight division. And all of a sudden, Green Bay, who I thought going into the year was the favorite to win the division, all of a sudden you look up and they may finish in second or third place. I don't think they'll finish worse. I think that will be Minnesota, who I said they always play the Lions close. It doesn't matter what their records are. JJ McCarthy, maybe he just needed those 6 weeks to sit because he looked really good. He looked comfortable. He looked decisive. The Vikings offense moved the ball with ease. And the Lions thought they were going to go in there and muddy up the picture and they were going to, have this eye flying offense with Jameson Williams at a quick score. And that's kind of what I thought the Lions offense was going to be. And yet, they shockingly, in my opinion, came out against a division rival and fell flat at home. And it just goes to show again, Minnesota. They won 14 games last year. Detroit won 15. Both of them already have more losses this year than they did a year ago. It just goes to show how hard it is to win in the NFL. And when you have one of those years like both these teams had last year, you need to capitalize on your window. So we don't know what's going on with Brock Purdy in San Francisco. Sounds like he has turf toe. Maybe he could come back against the Rams next week. We don't really know. But what we do know is the Giants, and I said this, last year the Bears were 4-2. They go to Washington week 8. They had the Hail Mary game. They completely collapsed down the stretch. The Giants are coming off being 0-3. They win two in a row, including the Charger game and the Eagle game. At this point, they're 2-4 because they lose a random game to the Saints week 5. And they take on the Denver Broncos. And they're up 19-0 going into the fourth quarter. They give up 33 points in the fourth quarter. And that felt like their Hail Mary moment. And then the next week against the Eagles, Cam Scadaboo is out for the season. And with already Malik Neighbors out for the season, this Giants offense has no talent left. And they are about to go into a collapse, in my opinion, a downward spiral. I don't know if they're going to win the rest of the year. And it's possible that Brian Dable may lose his job. No need to talk about Rams Saints. Obviously, Matthew Stafford and the Rams take care of business there. How about Jags Raiders? There was a lot of points in the 4 o'clock window where Jags Raiders was more entertaining than Chiefs Bills. Even though it was 6-6 going in a half. Congratulations to Cam Whittle, who did kick that 68-yard field goal. Easily set the NFL record. I think he's going to nail one from 70. We all thought it could have been Brandon Aubrey a couple weeks ago in Mile High. Turns out we had to wait a week for Cam Whittle to do it in Las Vegas. But the Raiders were one of my surprise teams going into the year. And one of the reasons I thought they could be was because of Brock Bowers, another big, strong end catch, a 175-yard, multiple touchdown game. But in the second half, these two offenses just went up and down the field on each other. In the Raiders, they got the touchdown in overtime, and for Jacksonville got the touchdown. Jag just made one more stand in the 2-point conversion as the Raiders did not want to tie the game. They wanted to go for the win. Understandable with their record at that point and the fact that they were at home. And again, the Jags just made one more play. Raiders are clearly the fourth worst team in the AFC West. Jacksonville and Houston, they play this week for the second time, this time being down in Houston. That'll be a game that probably determines who will finish second and third in the AFC South. Then obviously I thought Josh Allen played wonderful. I thought that may have been the best game of Josh Allen's career. They got the run game going with James Cook, and Buffalo made Patrick Mahomes feel him. And the Chiefs are dealing with a lot of injuries right now, especially at offensive tackle. Javon Taylor left the game. Josh Simmons is not playing for personal reasons, and Buffalo took advantage of it. Now this Buffalo Kansas City game, of course, the Chiefs came back. Rashid Rice got in the end zone. Matt Prater missed the field goal the whole 9 yards. The Chiefs had a chance to win. But really, from the opening drive, when Buffalo went down and Dalton Kincaid got that touchdown, even when the Bills were up 21 to 13 at half, you sort of felt like, yeah, of course the Chiefs are going to make this a game. But that's the key word of make this a game. Because the Bills had complete control. I think the Chiefs saw what the Bills, put on tape against the Patriots and Falcons. And they may have thought, oh, Buffalo's not as good as last year. Their offense not explosive. We're going to do what we always do. And James Cook just ran the ball down the throat of the Chiefs' defense, and the Chiefs' biggest Achilles heel this season. And obviously, Pacheco was not in there. They do have Kareem Hunt. They brought up the old name, Clyde Edwards-Helaire from the practice squad. But Patrick Mahomes still leads this team in rushing, I do believe. They don't have a run game. And when Kansas City gets one-dimensional and Buffalo can tee out those pass rushers, and I thought Joey Bosa had to turn the clock back game from his early times in LA when he was a dominant pass rusher. That is the formula. We all know it. The Bucks did it in the Super Bowl. The Eagles did it in the Super Bowl. Buffalo did it on Sunday. Get pressure without blitzing on number 15. I still think the Chiefs are fine. Yes, I would still pick these two teams to meet in the AFC Championship. A team that didn't make the NFC Championship game a year ago that won't this year is the Commanders. Obviously, their season's over. Yeah, Jaden Daniels is a competitor. Yeah, you could have made the argument that he should have been out of the game. Listen, it just sucks what happened to him. And now they also lose Marshawn Lattimore in the same game to a torn ACL. Terry McLaurin's hurt. You might as well shut him down for the year. The Deebo Samuel addition has done absolutely nothing. The Laramie Tunsil addition on the offensive line has not stabilized the offensive line really at all. And it feels like almost every move the Commanders made this year failed. And I kept telling my buddy Austin Arnold this, who's been on the show before. You know him, he's a big Commanders fan. I said, progression in the NFL is not linear. And I did not like the offseason the Commanders had. I didn't think they did enough to upgrade, overtake the Eagles for first place in the NFC East. Now, I was completely wrong on Seattle. I may have missed the fact that Clint Kubiak is a great offensive coordinator, and that's why Sam Darnold is the number one ranked quarterback right now by Pro Football Focus. But I didn't think Jackson Smith and Jigba would make this leap. I didn't think this offense would be this good. I didn't think this defense, with not a lot of names outside of Leonard Williams, is flying around, creating turnovers, making plays. Seattle looks like the real deal. Now we'll see if Sam Darnold goes back in a pumpkin mode to begin the playoffs, and they are in a very tough division. Seattle's success. I know they've had great success on the road, and I know they have not been good at home, ironically, under Mike McDonald. But their biggest success to playoff success will be getting home games. That, in my opinion, will determine if this team could go as far as the NFC Championship game or if they're out in the wild card round. And this was the Arizona team I picked to make the playoffs this year. Now it's with Jacoby Brissett quarterbacking, not Kyler Murray. We could have a controversy there, but I said Jonathan Gannon owns the Cowboys. I said Arizona loves to play Dallas, and Dallas, Kyler Murray always had success there. But it didn't matter because the Cowboys defense did not show up in the first half. The Cowboys offense did not show up for 3 quarters. And the Cowboys are going to cowboy. And I said the Cowboys are going to be the Bengals of last year, where they don't score 40 points every game. They're not going to win the game. And Walter Nolan played. He was one of my favorite players going out of the draft, won't miss. It's one of the reasons why I was high on Arizona this year because of Walter Nolan and Will Johnson. Obviously, both guys have been in and out of the lineup this year, and I thought Marvin Harrison was going to take a big leap like he did last night. That Cardinals team you saw on tape was the Cardinals team that I thought could win 10 games this year. And that Cowboy team you saw last night was the Cowboy team I thought was going to win 4 or 5 games this year. So, what I predicted going into the year is what you saw last night. I should have taken Arizona +3. I said, though, if Dallas came in and put up 40, I was going to look stupid. So, I didn't feel great about it because I didn't know if Arizona's season was over. Turns out they just needed the quarterback change. And now they go to Seattle next week, who the Seahawks are a wagon and nobody believes in the Cardinals, and Arizona's going to have 6 days off. But those two teams always play each other tough. Be careful of thinking that's a smash spot for Seattle. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.